It's Abe's world, and we are just living in it. Life is short, you gotta live it to the limit. When the prophet filming you, better be still. You are now listening to no free refills.
Welcome back to No Fee Refills. I'm so excited to shoot the second episode. Introducing today, I get my friend Kyle Whisner with us today, and I'm really excited for this. So Kyle, yeah, I have some of those questions here, and let's try to answer them to the best of your ability, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, first off, Kyle. So tell us where you're from, what's the story, and what made you get into NASCAR?
Oh man, so this all goes back to Riverside, California.
Oh, nice.
More specifically, Moreno Valley, California. A lot of people that don't know the area, I just kind of blanket it in Riverside County because I spent a lot of time there, and San Bernardino County. But Moreno Valley is where I was pretty much born and raised. Didn't come from. I'll rephrase that. I'll never say I didn't come from nothing, because I came from two hardworking parents who did everything they possibly could.
That's amazing.
Right? But at the end of the day, we didn't come from means. We didn't have a lot of money. My mother worked multiple jobs, and I'm really grateful for what she was able to do to lift us out of where we were at and where we were able to get from. That same work ethic, I try to put into everything that I possibly can. So.
No, you're super good at that, man. Every time I see you on the internet, you're like working hard. You know, you got it, man.
Yeah, it's. I think it's important to realize that no matter where you start, there's a journey and there's opportunities ahead, and you can find your ways around it. And trust me, it's not easy. But I think a lot of people get discouraged when they hit a certain point and they're like, this is never possible and I can't get out of that place that I'm at.
Okay.
But I think that's what my story is about, is the fact that where we came from and what we've been able to accomplish shows other people that it's possible. So my father was from Iowa. And
nice.
Yeah, he drove what they call jalopies. So back in the old days, stock car racing was an American sport, right? We think of it as a Southern sport now because tobacco money was involved with it, and you had the Winston Cup, right? But stock car racing was all over the country, and my father was doing it. He was born in 1940, right? So he was doing it way back then. He went to Vietnam. He had a bunch of things happen in his life. He ended up in Southern California. That's where he met my mother. My parents, the relationship, like a lot of people, they weren't together the whole time. They were divorced rather quickly. But he did his best to come in and pull me out and give me opportunities and show me what the racetrack was like. So the racetrack became my home, right?
That's amazing.
I love that place. I love the people that are there. At short tracks all over the country, you have hardworking, middle to lower class folks that are just doing whatever that they can to go out and do the sport that they love, right? So that's how it all kind of started. Just as a kid, I was in with all of these people. I can remember falling asleep on Ron Hornaday's fender because it was a warm place, right?
That's cool.
When I think of who I am as a person, I'm a racer through and through. That's what I was when I was a kid.
Okay.
And that's my identity, right? Now, as time has gone on, I've done all these other things. I've acted. I've produced films. I've done all this other stuff. But that's a passion and something I love. But as a person, I'm a racer, and it's because the sport is what raised me. So that's pretty much how this whole thing happened. Was my family were racers. I mean, heck, my mom even raced.
That's dope.
Yeah, she was.
That's awesome.
There's these things. They call it the powder puff, right? So all of the girlfriends or the wives of all of the racers would get a chance to go race the cars, right? And she was awesome. She was moving people out of the way. The stories that they tell, my dad would talk about it. I came from racers. And I just want to be able to help leave a lasting legacy in the sport.
That's awesome, man. It's like I said, you're doing such an amazing job, man. Keep doing you, man. You're gonna go far, man.
Thanks.
All right. So, what's you said your family is the one that initially inspired you to get into NASCAR. So what's one big significant memory do you have working with NASCAR that has helped you grow as a person? What moment really moved you?
Oh, wow. So I think early on, one of the biggest things to talk about community, I was in a really bad wreck. So,
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
It happens. It's part of the sport. So the right front lower control arm, the bushing that holds it and allows it to move like this, a part of it had gotten welded to the control arm. And so instead of doing this, it started bending, right? So you take a ruler and do that long enough, what happens? It snaps.
Yeah.
Right? So I went off into the corner, and the right front spring and everything on that suspension just shot into the ground. It turned me. I went up the racetrack, caught air, hit,
Oh my God.
went through 6 feet of concrete wall, pushed the dirt back behind it.
Oh my God, dude. How long were you out for in the hospital?
Well, so I literally, when I woke up, the fire bottle had come out of its holder and it exploded. And the chemical that's inside of it takes all of the oxygen out of the air. So I couldn't breathe, and I'm looking around, and I look to my left, and there's a firefighter, a woman's looking at me, and she says, "Are you okay?" And I looked at her and I said, "Is the car okay?" Because my family, we built this thing from the ground up. We spent all of our money to make this happen, you know. And about that time, another firefighter pops his head out from behind her and goes, "Son, you just had a fight with the wall, and the wall won." They pulled me out of the car. They strapped me to the board and duct taped my head with the helmet to the board so my back wouldn't move because my legs had been tingling, right?
Yeah.
They put me in the ambulance, got me to the hospital, and they tried to get my suit off. And they were going to cut it off because that's how they do in the ER room.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't let them because at that time that was $350 that I had just spent, that I worked all summer to be able to get my racing suit. So they're like, "Are you sure?" I said, "No, I'm not letting you take this off." So I pulled it off, and about that time they let my parents come in, and I told my dad, I said, "Dad, they tried to cut off my suit, and I wouldn't let them." And then I started laughing, and he said, "What's so funny?" And I said, "They cut off my socks." And he said, "Why is that funny?" And he goes, "I was wearing your socks." He's like, "Oh, get the heck out of here."
That's hilarious.
So they picked me up, got me back to the racetrack. When I got back to the racetrack, the crowd, literally, they announced over the PR system that I was back. And
That's good.
the crowd went wild. You could hear it. It sounded like someone won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, dude, you obviously left some big inspiration to all of your fans, man. That's good.
Exactly.
That's
and
good.
so to answer your question, it comes back to the support that I got. Now, trust me, I had to do rehab and concussion stuff.
How long did that take you, that process?
About a good 6 months of getting back to normal. I checked the mail multiple times a day because I forgot that I checked it already. But I was able to get just gifts from people. They were sending race cars that were painted like mine and all of this fun stuff. And it just goes to show, like, I gained more fans that day than any day I won a race. Mm-hmm. And that was because the community wanted to support. And that's the cool thing about racers, right? Like, racers support each other. And that's the best thing that I could look at this, is the thing that impacted me the most was that when I was at my worst, the sport came back to lift me back up.
That's amazing, man. You've definitely got quite a story to tell, man. Just keep doing you, man. And so, what are some other goals and accomplishments do you have as an artist and as a driver? Can you see yourself, having your own team? So how does that whole thing work? Do you need a manager to be a NASCAR driver, or what?
Yeah. So there's a lot to that. And the key is you have to have the right people around you.
Okay.
Because even if you have people with the title, and if they're not good people, the end goal is not where you want to be. So for me, my goals are to leave a lasting impact on the sport. That
You're already doing that, man. I can tell.
Well,
that's amazing.
I appreciate that, but I still have goals and things that I want to accomplish with it. So there's a lot of really, really cool things happening right now. Stuff that you'll see very shortly that's coming out. And when it comes to managers and representation and all the people that are coming to our aid because they understand what we're doing, it's really awesome. So I think as far as goals go, and I talk about leaving that lasting impression, right? Owning a team would be great.
I support you.
That mainly because I would like to be able to give people the opportunities that they may not have had. I would like to be able to see other people who didn't come from means be able to have the opportunity to get into the seats because they're the ones that have the ability, not so much just the money. So that would be the overall goal.
All right. Well, yeah, like you said, that's an amazing goal you have, man. You honestly reminded me of myself. You know, like I want to get back to people. If I ever got big enough, if I like some guy's performance at a play, you know, I'm gonna, hey, come work with me. So it's a good. It's good. You have good energy, man. So just keep being you. All that good stuff is gonna be returning you, and it already is. So keep being you, man.
Yeah, thanks. I'll do my best.
Yeah, keep doing that. You're great. So, do you have any pre and post race rituals? No. For me, I love, like, if I have a play I'm going to do, I love, like, going up to the bar, open up a cold one, or, like, after, like, going out with friends and stuff. That's my pre-rituals and after rituals.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. I get it, too, because, like, I've been on the acting side of things as well, so I understand.
Oh, no, that's cool, yeah.
They're both very similar, right? So it's performance.
Yeah.
One is a physical performance in a sport. And even you have to be on your game too, as far as acting, right? Because you're out there in front of all of these people, and you're delivering lines and talking to folks and doing all of that. So very similar, both of those things. When it comes to like rituals and stuff for racing, it's pretty much the same thing as I do with acting. I like to kind of be by myself as much as I possibly can leading up to it to get focused, to understand the goal. Meditation is a great way to hone your mind and get yourself in that spot, right?
I meditate, I pray all day, every day.
Yes, prayer. That same idea of connecting with consciousness and all that's around you, and just to remember who you are and what you're there for. Then you have to think of like the physical aspect of it, and acting's the same way, right? It's mind and body.
Yes.
Make sure you have the right nutrition in you. Make sure you have enough fuel to get yourself through it, right? So right amount of carbohydrates and proteins. All of that, if you're fueling your body, you're fueling your mind, right? And that allows you to be able to get the most out of everything that you're doing, whether it's delivering a line or it's turning the most precise lap after lap after lap after lap, right? Mm-hmm. So those rituals all come down into just getting centered, getting honed into where you need to be, making sure you have the fuel to do it. And then once you get ready to strap in, or on the acting side, you walk out onto stage into the light, there's a release of everything. And then you're in the zone. Mm-hmm. You're just focused on that moment at hand. You don't think of anything else that's going on in the world. You're not thinking of any arguments that you've had or having any chips on your shoulder, any of that stuff. The whole world just disappears. And that's why I love acting, and that's why I love racing. It's a moment to just get away from everything that is happening in the world, the chaos of the world, and just be in that moment, right?
That's amazing, man. So this is a little off topic. Talking about like consciousness and stuff. One of my questions is actually like, do you have any spiritual practices? Like, are you a believer in God? Are you archangels? Does that help you? Or like, what's a big spiritual practice that you live life by?
For sure. I think everybody has. There's certain people who are very religious, and they go to church on a regular basis.
Okay. Yeah.
I grew up in a secular household, so my family didn't have a particular religion.
Okay.
My mother was in foster care when she was young, so she had bounced around from house to house.
That's rough.
Right? Yes, but she made the best of it, and she's an amazing woman because of it. So for me, I was able to go out and find and search religion and understand spirituality and God and
it's amazing, man.
Yeah. So I've gone from church, a bunch of different churches, just to understand what it is that it's about. I want to know as much as possible. In that process, for me, I've led myself more into, I have a very scientific mind, but those two things aren't separate. When it comes down to it, Einstein, the theory of everything, before he passed away, it equaled God, right? So for me, I am a firm believer in God, something bigger than all of us. Yes. It's what connects us all. I believe we're all a version of one consciousness with just different perspectives.
We're all co-creators with God and creating our reality, shaping it.
Yes. And so Jesus talked about being one with God, right?
He did.
And we are all one with God. And so that we are an instrument of that overall consciousness and what we can use that for. So when you talked about like spiritual practices and things like that, I definitely take the time. And I think people have different words that are explaining the same thing. It just depends on how you go about it. And so when it comes to meditation or prayer or any of that, definitely centering yourself and being connected to all of that stuff is very important.
That's great, man. So my last question for you is, what's one piece of advice you can give the audience, and what's one piece of advice that you live your whole life by?
Oh, a piece of advice that I could give the audience that I live my whole life by.
Or something that's really inspired you, any quotes or any wisdom, anything that's really helped you.
I think at the end of the day, no matter where you come from and what you're dealing with now, it's a new day tomorrow. You can get up, you can keep trying, you can find ways to be able to surpass the place that you're at in life. I feel like I'm a perfect example of that, and I meet people every day who do. So at the end of the day, it comes down to wake up, find your goal, find your purpose, find your why. Help others. Don't go focusing towards finding the most important person in the room to make your life better. Try focusing on helping others, and good things will come from it.
That's amazing, man. Again, thank you for coming here, taking the time to talk to me, man. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. But Kyle, do you have any questions for?
I did have a question. I want to know what it's like when you're going 140, 160 miles an hour, because I don't like going past like 85.
It's all relative. I like what Kyle Petty says, right? So at Bristol, you do about 140-ish miles an hour around Bristol, but it's like flying a jet in a gymnasium. You're just going really fast around it. But then you get to the bigger tracks like Talladega, and you're doing 190, 195 miles an hour, but the track is so big that it's relative. So also, all of the cars that are around you are going the same speed. So we're judging based off of what those other cars are going, and so a half a mile an hour, a mile an hour is a big difference on passing them. So plus, when you strap in, everything slows down. So it gets to the point on a short track where I'm going around the track and everything is going so slow that I can look to the right and I can point out somebody's clothes in the stands, right? So speed, it's not things happening very fast. It's more everything slows down so that you can process all of it. It's almost like as if you were the Flash, right? The Flash is going really fast, but for him, everything is just happening at normal speed.
I got one more question. Dale Earnhardt Sr., Jeff Gordon, or Jimmy Johnson? Who would you pick out of those three?
Ooh.
Jimmy Johnson's my man.
I think all of them have different racing styles, and if we start looking at the 7-time champions, so you've got Richard Petty, Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson, and then Jeff Gordon comes in there not as a 7-time champion, but as a multi-time, 4-time, I think. But each one has their own style, right? Jimmy Johnson was all about the clean racer, the doing it precise, the systematic racing the racetrack and his car and himself and not the racetrack. He also had Chad Knaus as his crew chief, which was a brilliant mind. Hendrick Motorsports, the reason why he has those 7 championships is not just him, it's that whole organization. Dale Earnhardt was a firecracker, man. He ran people hard. There's a reason they call him the Intimidator. If anybody ever tried to push him around, he wasn't having it. He made sure people knew their spot and who he was on the racetrack. Why? Because he came from nothing. He got his hands dirty. He built all of his cars, and anybody tried to take anything away from him, he was going to let them know that that wasn't the way to go. Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon at the time, he was the upstart. He started as a kid, similar to me. I started racing when I was 9 years old. At that time, there was nobody else doing that. Right now, it happens all the time. It's normal. But because of his talent, that ability that he had, what he was amazing at, he was able to go out there and do amazing things. But there was a reason why he was the golden boy and Earnhardt was the intimidator, and why they were rivals, because they were both different style characters. So to pick just one, I take the work ethic of Earnhardt every day, because if you would have had him in some type of an organization like a Hendrick Motorsports, game over. There would have been an 8th, 9th, 10th championship. But I do look up to Jimmy Johnson quite a bit, and Jeff Gordon paved the way for all of the folks like me who were doing it. So it's really hard to answer that, but I'm going to go with Earnhardt.
I got another question for Ave the Prophet's followers and fans who might not know too much about stock car racing. I already know this stuff, but can you talk a little bit about the origins, like during the Prohibition era and all that, how it got started?
Sure.
You go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So it's interesting. So the story of it in the South is, and it all goes back to the moonshiners, right? So there was these guys that were trying to make money during the Prohibition era, and for those who don't know about that, that was the time where they outlawed alcohol. Alcohol was illegal across the country. Well, people still wanted to drink. And so the way that folks were making money were having stills out in the forest, making their own alcohol, and then running it to different areas to be able to sell. So having people facilitate that was an important part of it. At that time, they were doing that the best way that they could to outrun the police while that was happening was soup up their cars to be able to get to that next place, outrun them, deliver their shine, and not get arrested. Soon, they started looking at each other going, hey, wait a second, you got a fast car, I got a fast car, I bet you my fast car could beat your fast car.
Nice.
Soon, they started racing each other. From that, it started to spawn, and folks started having major events, and fans started to come watch it. But at that time, it was different sections of people. There was territories, similar to wrestling. There was wrestling territories. But then, there was a guy who came along, France family, Bill France, he said, I want to make this the National Association of Stock Car Racing. Similar to the way that Vince McMahon did for WWE, right? So he came in and brought all the territories together and created the National Association of Stock Car Racing. Now, if you want to go a step further, stock car racing was all over the country at the time. It wasn't just in the South. The first vice president of NASCAR was a California racing promoter who had 5 racetracks already running. So it shows that it's not just centered in the South, it's an American sport through and through. But because tobacco money was a big pusher of it at a time with Winston cigarettes and becoming the Winston Cup with R.J. Reynolds, it became known as spawning in the South and being what it is today, which is all true. But I also like to add the fact that it's an American sport.
Are you excited that the North Wilkesboro track is getting revitalized?
Yeah, it was a great race last year. We were doing our best to try to make my debut there in the Truck Series, but weather came in. I don't know if anybody saw, but literally it was flooded the whole entire pit area. No, this was before the hurricane. Okay. But it was so crazy. There was like literally tires floating through.
Crazy.
People were swimming in the middle of North Wilkesboro.
Dude, because I was in Boone when that storm hit. It got pretty bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. Yeah, and then that hurricane that came through too. That was awful. And then we have a lot of friends and stuff. But that was a great thing that NASCAR did, and all of us in the racing community, we were packing up haulers and sending them up to be able to take care of the people there, utilizing whatever resources we had to be able to help during the hurricane time.
Oh, that's good, man.
When do you think the sport peaked?
When do I think?
Absolute peak.
Of course, I think everybody knows that the sport in its heyday was the early 2000s, where everybody was watching it. One of the reasons why was the Earnhardt-Gordon rivalry that was happening at the time. There was changes in the sport, and everything has to evolve. But I think now with what they have going on now, it is moving back towards that peak. Every race is extremely exciting. The talent that they have involved, pulling from different areas, like with Van Gisbergen, who is an Australian supercar champion. The talent is just rising and rising, and they're also doing crazy fun things like doing the Chicago Street Race, and they're building it back up. So
yeah, the end of the Daytona was crazy recently.
oh yeah.
What up? And you got any other cool events coming up? New races this year?
Yeah. Tell us where we can go support you at.
Man.
Yeah.
I still want to come out and do some videos for you.
So we've got a bunch of things in the works right now, short track stuff and local to this area, so we can all come out and do that. And as soon as I'm able to release that information, I will. But
Awesome.
there's it sounds like we're working towards getting that truck debut to happen, and that's going to be happening this year as well. So just stay tuned.
Yeah, awesome, man. Again, like, you're a very well knowledgeable person, man. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And same for you too,
Thank
man.
you.
Like, I've seen you working hard, doing all the right things, putting in the effort to do it. You have the connections of people. You surround yourself with good people. Just keep digging forward, man. Again, at the end of the day, it's all about not looking at the reasons why things aren't working, because I get that way sometimes too, and just focusing on every day why something worked, and then keep trying, keep pushing, and I'm guaranteed you're going to be doing the photography thing, and you're more than welcome at the racetrack all day long. And these podcasts, man, just keep digging with those two, and anything I can do to help, I'm happy to do that.
Oh, same to you, man. Thank you guys for coming.
And lastly, tell us where we can look you guys up on social media.
Abe the Prophet Productions.
On Instagram?
Instagram and YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, head on over to KyleWhisnerMotorsports.com. You can check out all the latest there. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or now X. Anywhere that any social media platform, I think I'm pretty much around.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, audience. Thank you for taking your time to watch this episode. I'm excited to bring more episodes your way.
take on a champion. Let's do it. Kyle, Avery's coming for you. Let's go.
It's A's world, and we are just living in it. Life is short, you gotta live it to the limit. When the prophet filming you, better be still. You are now listening to No Free Refills.